Hi, welcome to Seaside Quilting Tutorials. We're back for block 11 of our Seaside 2023 Seaside Quilt Along. Can you believe it? I'm just surprised. It's gone by really quickly for me. This whole year's gone by so quickly. So we're on block 11. I'm really ecstatic about this. I've got to catch up a little bit with the teal one because if you've started from the beginning with me, you saw that I started with the teals and I moved over to working on the blues. I'm kind of working on them together off to the side, but I got to catch up on the teals because I'd like to have these put together at the same time at the end of this month. Just as a reminder, I will be making an additional block. Next week will be our block 12, and I'm going to be making a sub block. So if you had trouble with any of the blocks, you can do the sub block and exchange it out. And I'll be showing you how easy it is to exchange it out. I'll also be doing a side video on how, like, if you don't like the order that I put my blocks in, you can move them all around and rearrange them and still come out with the same exact pattern. These can just be easily shifted. They don't have to be in the order that I put them in. And if you're waiting to do it when this, after all the videos, that's fine. Or at a later time during the year when you have more time. I know a lot of people are doing vacations and outings and different odd things at this time of the year and maybe don't have time, maybe started and can't finish until later, different things like that. So no worries, these videos will be here for you for as long as we have our channel, of course. And so there's no rush. You can reuse it at any time. If you would like the downloadable pages, please come join us on Facebook in our private quilting group called Seaside Quilting. Our business page is on Facebook. It's called Seaside Quilting Supplies LLC, where we post our lives and all that kind of things, new fabrics and products that come in, and bundle kits that we do are posted on there. In our private group, we do special sales for our group only, and on Sundays we do end of bolt sales that goes into that group by itself. So come on over and join us. It's nice to have the downloadables. Of course, I tell you all the sizes and how many pieces you're going to need and all that kind of information during the tutorial, so you don't necessarily need the downloadables. I just like to have them because I take them to my table and have them right there so I can double check. So this is our 2023 Seaside Quilt Along. Like I said, we're on block 11 right here. Next week we'll be able to put it all together. All of our rows together. I've already done the tutorial on how to put your rows together. So once you get block 12 done, you can go ahead and you can put it all together. I'm going to try to release both the sub block and block 12 next Friday. If not, then the sub block will come out on Saturday. It's hard to plan my time sometimes for everything. My initial intention is to have both come out on next Friday, but we'll see how it goes. If not, it will come out on Saturday next week. That way, if you need the sub block so that you can finish your quilt, you'll have it. So there's that. So our next block is called Yankee Puzzle. And as we've been doing our blocks, we've had a lot of half square triangles. And this one, so you've had a lot of practice with half square triangles. So I'm not going to spend a lot of attention on them tonight, but I will go back over how to make them just to refresh your memory. But this one is all half square triangles. So each piece is a half square triangle, and we're just going to twist them around. So it's almost like we have like a double windmill in here, but they call it Yankee Puzzle. And so let me shift my camera over, and we'll get started on this. It's a fun block. I really like it. It's got a lot of movement in it, and it's just a fun block. And any of these blocks you can remake. You can put them together. You can use the sashing. You could do this as a scrap quilt. I have tons and tons of scraps. I can't keep up with scraps. Even when I use scraps, I create scraps. I don't know how that happens, but it just does. So I will be making another one later on, which I'll post it in our group when I do it. But I am going to make one that's a scrappy one. I think one of our members is making one that is scrappy. So that's wonderful. I'm excited about it. This is probably one of the few patterns that will work for me personally doing a scrap quilt. I have a real hard time blending scraps of different colors that are large ranges. I see people do it. They do a beautiful job. It just, for me personally, I have difficulty with it. And I even took a color theory class. So it's just how my brain works, I guess. But I do love this pattern for that because it breaks them up. And I think for me that would work better, having them more broken up. And it will give me a chance to use some of my scraps. And of course I use some of my scraps in applique and in my with my embroidery machine. There's a lot of applique projects, so I'm able to use a lot of my scraps that way. So I do have ways to use my scraps, and sometimes I just take my scraps and donate them. Why not? There are many charities out there, quilt clubs and whatnot, where they have people that have a lot of time to do quilting, but they don't have the fabric. And where it's charity, it's nice to donate those scraps, have them make something, and then those quilts get donated out to police stations, fire departments, foster homes, to NICU at the hospitals, for baby quilts. So there's just a lot of ways that when we donate fabric or scraps, that they can be used in other ways. I don't have the time right now to make the charity quilts. So, you know, why not let somebody else do that has the time? So sometimes I use my scraps and sometimes they just go out and be donated. Either way, they get used. So let me just adjust my camera. I know I'm rattling on here, so let's go ahead and get started. I also have to be careful when I'm adjusting my camera that I don't accidentally turn my phone off, because that would be drastic. Then you wouldn't, I'd have to start this thing all over again. And I don't want to do that today. Today I've been super busy. I've made 3 tutorials today, and I have some more that I want to make over the weekend. We have air quality alerts out and can't be outside. We've just hit 300 on the scale, so it's highly recommended not to be outside. I've got tons of gardening stuff that I need to get done, but it's going to still be there when the time comes and I can get back outside. So in the meantime, I'm catching up on doing tutorials and having fun quilting. Why not? Okay, so this is our Yankee puzzle. You need, all of our pieces are going to be cut 3 3/8 by 3 3/8. So we need 6 of our background fabric. We need 6 of our dark fabric and 4 of our medium fabric. So I've already made some of the half square triangles ahead of time because there's quite a few in here. And of course, each time we make one, we end up with two, which is wonderful. I have done tutorials on how to make 8 all at one time. I'm going to be doing a future one on how to make even more at one time. So if you're doing something like this, you could make an entire quilt just out of this block and use those multi half square triangle tutorials so that you could make a lot of half square triangles all at the same time. I've posted the chart for that, for the making 8 at a time, which would make this so much faster in the long run to make. And I think I might even make a quilt out of this block. I think it would be fun, and maybe do one of this block and then a solid next to it and offset them that way. Kind of like they do in those 3-yard quilt books. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on these. So some of them we're going to have the dark going with the medium. And we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 of the dark with the medium. So we only had to do 2 of those, which creates the 4. And then we need several that are going to have the dark with the background, and 4 that are going to be the medium with the background. And I've already done those and set those aside. Yeah, I made all 4. Just double checking. I've been going through doing some squaring up tutorials today, squaring up blocks, squaring up a quilt. And I've got several tutorials prepared, so I just need to do the filming and get you more tips and projects to work on. And as I make things, I've been trying to share them so you can see kind of what I do in the background. So you're going to draw your line diagonally from one corner to the next corner. Now, as you know, I just use my 1/4-inch foot that has that little metal piece that comes out, my little guide piece. I use that guide piece and have that guide piece go down on the center, which will automatically sew my 1/4 inch on both sides of that line. If you don't have that, that's not a problem. You just take your ruler. I like the Creative Grids ruler because it has that 1/4 inch marking on one side and a 1/2 inch on the other side. So it's easy for me to take this, use my lines, line that up with that center, and I can draw a line on each side, and you will sew on those lines that you draw on each side of that center line, because the center line is our cut line, and the 1/4 inch on each side is the line that we sew on. So you'll sew on this side a 1/4 inch away, and on this side a 1/4 inch away, and you're going to do that on all of them until you have them all created. So I'm going to mark these ahead of time because I like to chain stitch, which makes this much quicker if you're doing them individually, or anything, any block that you're putting together, any quilt that you're putting together that you can chain stitch pieces. It just makes it a lot faster. And my favorite part is the long arming. So I like to get my pieced quilts done as quickly as I possibly can. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch these. Remember to put your stitch length at 2.0 and to be using your scant 1/4 inch. So don't forget to move your needle over for the scant 1/4 inch that works for your machine. These really, even though you're making them individually or 2 at a time, it's just, with chain piecing them, it's so quick. So I've already done one side on both of those. Now I just need to snip them apart. And so instead of having this long thread at the end each time, I just have these little tiny ones. And it just makes it a lot neater, so I don't have to go back and do a lot of snipping. Okay, so that part's all done. Now you can either use your scissors to cut these down through the center, or you could use a ruler and your rotary cutter. For tonight, I'm doing this at night. A lot of my sewing gets done at night because I have to do, you know, the house cleaning stuff and whatnot that none of us really care. Well, some people like to do it. It's not my favorite thing. But it has to get done, and cooking meals and taking care of pets and the husband and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes the best time for me to do my quilting is in the evening. Okay, so now I've cut those down through the center. And that gives me 2 half square triangles for each one that I sewed. Okay? Now I'm just going to set this up here out of the way for a moment. And we're going to press these open. And I'm going to press them to the dark side. So whichever fabric is darker for your half square triangle, that's the side that you're going to press it toward. And I just run my fingers after I've set my stitching. I press it open. I just use my fingernail. You can use the purple thing or whatever you use to press it open that way. And then I use my iron and press it. And then I use my quilter's clapper. And I just set that on there, give it a little press, leave it on there while I'm getting my next one ready. And by the time I get this one ready for to move the quilter's clapper over, that one's usually pretty flat, or flat enough to get my block together. And then while my quilter's clapper's sitting on that one, I'm going to trim these dog ears off. Just nice and neat. So it's now a nice little square. And then I'll do my next 2. And then we'll be ready to arrange these. And I kind of get a system going, get a little flow going while I'm making these, and they go up pretty quick. Don't forget to trim off your dog ears each time so they come out nice and neat. And just one more to go. And usually when I'm down in my sewing room is downstairs. I have the whole basement. I have a back room down here that is for my storage of my other craft items. And I'll come down and watch TV or listening to music while I'm doing my quilting, and it's nice and peaceful. All right, now I can set my mat out of the way, and we're going to arrange these, whoops, according to our guide here. So I've made it so that you have both the outline without the colors and with the colors. I think the color one helps me the most when I'm arranging my pieces, and I like to keep it handy so that I can see how that they go together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cutting mat, set my rotary cutter off out of the way, and I'm going to take that and just set my guide up here so that it's easy for me to see how they all need to go together. And then I just line them up according to my guide. I'm going to move my camera over a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so they're going to go together like this. And just watch your guide so that you're getting them going all in the right direction. Okay, just a few more. It's fun to see how they all go together and make this beautiful block. Let me see, this one goes down here. And we're almost done getting them all put where we need them. Now this is another opportunity to chain piece your pieces together. Okay, so I'm just double checking to make sure everything is lined up. All my pieces are going in the right direction. Okay, so now in order to chain piece these, the easiest thing to do, let me adjust the camera just a little bit more. So the easiest thing to do is to take your pieces. I'm just going to, I'm going to fold these over. So this section, I'm going to fold over the end pieces, just like so, right side to right side, all the way down. So I know all the ones that are sitting over here, I'm going to be sewing my scant 1/4 of an inch down this side on each one of them. On this side, I'm going to fold the end piece over just like so. Oh, I'm going to double check that one. There we go. So I slid it around. And so now I know I'm going to do my scant 1/4 of an inch on the side of each one of these. Now when I take them, I'm just going to pick them up. I leave them set up on my cutting mat. And I know that I'm going to do a scant 1/4 of an inch down this way. So I put a clip on one side, well, a couple actually. I like to make sure that my fabric's not going to shift. So I kind of extra clip things a little bit. And if you want, you can put a pin right in where the seam is, just to make sure that you have it lined up. Now the only thing that you want to remember, and you can always flip these back open and double check that you have them going in the right direction and that you're going to be sewing on the proper side. Now I'm going to, I actually flip this over so that I can start sewing down this end, down to where I'm going to put my pin, because I want to make sure that my seams match up. Okay. And I'm going to sew right up until I get pretty close to that pin without running over it with my needle, because I don't want to break my needle. And go slow through any area that you know that you have seams coming together. Just slow down, because you don't want your needle to flex to one side or the other and misalign your pieces. So go ahead and do that. Sew each one on this side a scant 1/4 of an inch, and then the ones that are on this side that we flipped over, you're going to do it on this side a scant 1/4 of an inch. So go ahead and sew these together, and I'll show you how we're going to, which direction we want our seams to go in for each of them. And then we will take each of these sections and we will sew them together so that we can put our rows together. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back, because I'm sure you don't want to watch me sew every single one of these together. So now I have my sides sewn together where I flipped them over. I did it on each side, and I did my scant 1/4 of an inch on the side that I needed to. Now I've laid them out. I have not pressed them yet. I'm going to do my row pressing at the end after I have all my sections sewn together. So now I'm going to take this section, I'm going to fold it over, so that's my top row, my second row, my third row, and my fourth row. And I just followed my diagram to make sure that I have them all going in the right order. And we'll sew these 4 sections together. My supervisor is going by. My kitty cat thinks that she is my supervisor, and she likes to be in the way of everything, and she goes and checks all my stuff out. And I'm going to chain piece all of these together. It will make it a lot quicker. And remember to slow down when you get to a seam. Oh, now she wants to be on my lap. Move along. Now when I have to put a pin in to match up my seam, I know that I need to do my scant 1/4 inch on this side, but I want to start on the easier side that will go through the machine easier. So I'm just flipping it upside down. It'll just make it that much easier. Just start on that side. If you start on the side with the seams coming together, it's a little more difficult, and sometimes the machine will, you know, it will bunch up on you. So it's just easier for me to start on the other side. Okay, so now we'll have our 4 rows completed. So now we're just going to lay them out. And find which row is which, and just lay them out in the order that they need to go in. Now one of these I flipped upside down. I think it's this one. There we go. So just double check again to make sure that you have all your rows in the order that they're supposed to go in according to your diagram. And you're looking for your points where your pieces are matching up and making points. You're looking for those points to be set in place the way that they need to be. They're looking pretty good. So now I'm going to press these. I'll set my board up there, bring over my wool mat. It's very handy to have this. So I'm going to start with my bottom row, and I want these 3 seams to be going towards the left. So I'm going to finger press these ahead of time. Making sure that they're not folded the wrong way. And it will make it that much easier for me to press my rows. And now I can do my pressing. And I have a longer quilter's clapper now, so, and remember, don't iron, just pick your machine, your iron up and move it so that you're pressing. And then I'll lay my quilter's clapper on there, give it a little press, and then I'll get my next row ready. And my next row, I'm going to want those 3 seams to be going toward the right. So I'm going to finger press these ahead of time. Just makes it quicker for me to press it if I finger press them, and gives me a chance to take a look at my points, see how my points did. Okay. And now I'm going to press those seams so that they're going toward the right. And I can put that one up out of my way. My iron's not wanting to cooperate with me. And check the back afterward to make sure that you didn't bunch up your seams. Get the quilter's copper on there. Now when we do the next row, we're going to go back, and these 3 seams are going to go toward the left. This makes it easier when we're putting our rows together for them to butt up against each other. And we've seen how that's done in the previous tutorials. So you should be pretty familiar with it now, putting your rows together. Get that going in the right direction. And now I can get this one out of my way. I almost grabbed my smaller quilter's clapper. And then our last one, so we had those going to the left. This last one, they're going to go toward the right. And I'm going to finger press those. And then we'll have all 4 rows ready to sew together. Okay. Those quilter's clappers help a lot. Wait a minute. Let me look at my diagram here. I have something not going in the right direction. How did I do that? Oh, I see it. I turned it upside down. And it's nice to double check because I pressed this last seam going in the wrong direction, so I need to fix it. Not sure how I accomplished that, but I did. So I'll fix that now. Okay, much better. There we go. So I just have this last one. And these are going towards the right. And that last one wanted to sneak on me and go in the opposite direction. So I got that fixed. And get the quilter's copper on there for a second. And that's why I like to be able to have the downloadables to print out, because then I can have my diagram right there and see the direction that everything needs to go in. So now we have all 4 rows ready. And this is the time when you want to double check with your diagram to make sure that you have all your pieces going in the right direction. So now you'll do the same thing that I've showed before, where you'll flip up your row, and I have that one a little messed up. See how on the back these have crinkled up on me? This is the time when I'm going to fix that. And I'll do it from the back so that I can fix that. I just use the point of my little iron to move that in the direction that I need it to go in. And flatten that seam out right there. And I will put my quilter's clapper on it again. Give it a little press. And now I have those all smoothed out, so all my seams are nice and smooth. And that piece wants to take off on me. But this is a good time to double check your seams, make sure that they're nice and flat. And if not, fix them. And you want to make sure, and this one's a little muffed up, we're going to fix that one too. There. Okay. All right, so now we have them all lined up exactly the way that they need to go. And we will flip up the bottom one. Remember, you will butt your seams up to each other. And this is where I absolutely use pins to put my seams together. So I'll put a pin here, here, and here, and then I'll use a clip on the end and on the sides so it doesn't shift, and do your scant 1/4 of an inch all the way across. And I will do that for each one of the rows. Now I'm not going to do that sewing right now because it's getting late for me, because I was doing a bunch of tutorials and I had a pretty busy day. I'm going to let you sew these all together. I know that you can do it because you've had 10 of these ahead of time, and you've seen how we butt all the edges together and put our rows together. Now once your rows are all together, I'm going to turn off my iron now because I'm not going to need it. Okay, so I've checked with my diagram. And now I want to check with my other diagram to see which way my sashing is going to go. Now, as you've seen before, in the beginning, I pre-sewed my strips together for my sashing, so they're all ready each time that I make a block. So once I put my 4 rows together, I'll press this nice and neat. Then I'll add my sashing to this side. I'll put my long sashing on up here. And then my last sashing will go like that. And that will complete our block for this week. It's going to be a beautiful block when it's all finished. I'll be posting pictures of the blocks. I've been a little slack on getting that done. I went through between having a cold and then having an ear and sinus infection, and they lasted what seemed like forever, trying to get better. And now I'm trying to play catch up from everything in the house and with tutorials. So once I get a little more situated and caught up a little bit, I'll start posting my pictures of my blocks, and then you'll see postings as the quilts get put together. And I'll sew these in the morning. It's getting a little late for me. I'm getting tired, and but I know that from all the previous tutorials, you know how to put your rows together. You know how to use your diagram to add your sashings. It's going to be a super beautiful block. I love this design. This is going to be one of my favorite blocks to make. It's very easy as long as you know how to make half square triangles. This is a very simple block, and by the time we get done, you will have had a lot of practice with half square triangles. So until next Friday, next Friday, like I said, we're going to have, before I forget, we're going to have the additional block, the sub block. We're going to have block 12. In between, I'm going to do that tutorial on how you can move these blocks around and still have it come out the way the quilt should be. So like, say you wanted one of these blocks to be up in here and move these down in here, I'm going to show you in a tutorial how to be able, you know, that they're very easy to move around however you would like them to go. And especially if you're doing one that is scrappy, you may want to change the placement of your finished blocks so that they coordinate a little bit better. So if you have not subscribed yet, I hope that you will like my tutorial. If you feel that it's been helpful, I'm hoping that you're enjoying this quilt along. It's a lot of fun. And if you subscribe, there's a little bell there that you can click, and you can change the notifications so that you're getting notified each time a new block comes out, or each time a new tip, or I'm doing other things coming up. Primarily, I'm trying to get us finished with the Seaside Quilt Along, and this will be done by the end of June. And I'm trying to prepare some projects for Christmas in July so that we can get a jump on Christmas time. Even if you don't make them during July, you'll have them when Christmas time comes, and you can plan for them ahead of time and purchase your fabrics and what you're going to need for those projects. So I'm trying to look ahead towards that, and I'm also trying to plan for August and September and moving through the holidays. So I have a lot that's going on in my head that's coming up. So if you change your notifications to all, you'll be seeing as those pop up. Okay, so that's it for tonight. I will see you, well, it's nighttime for me. You'll see this in the morning, of course. So I've got to get it uploaded for you and edited and all that kind of stuff and ready for you. So in the meantime, I wish you happy sewing until I see you next time.